Hi, I'm Erin, the baker here at Broad & Taylor, and today we are going to be making country wheat sourdough. Nope, that's not what we're making. All right. Hi, I'm Erin. I'm the baker here at Broad & Taylor, and today I'm going to show you how to make our country wheat sandwich loaf. Our country wheat sandwich loaf is a classic sandwich bread. It's a yeasted bread, so it comes together pretty quickly, so you can make this on the weekend, but you can even make it during the week. The addition of wheat flour gives it a really great flavor, and butter and milk add a really nice tenderness to the dough, so you have a really soft and moist crumb. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on this recipe. We recommend weighing your ingredients on a scale for the best results, but we do have volume measurements on our website. Now that our ingredients are ready, let's go ahead and set up the folding proofer before we mix the dough. We are going to be using the folding proofer for both the first and second rise of the dough. And the folding proofer is great because it creates a warm, humid environment for the dough to rise in. And that's really important because yeast does its best in a warmer environment. It really prefers something a little bit over room temperature, and it's hard to find that in most homes. And the humidity is great because it prevents the dough from drying out. Now that the proofer is all set up, we'll just set it aside for now and we'll go ahead and mix the dough. The country wheat sandwich bread can be mixed by hand or it can be mixed in a stand mixer. I'm going to mix it in a stand mixer for about 5 to 7 minutes, but if you want to knead it by hand, it'll probably take a little bit longer, somewhere around 7 to 10 minutes. So the mixing is pretty straightforward. We just add everything to the mixing bowl all at once. Even the yeast, because we're using instant yeast, there's no need to bloom this separately in water ahead of time. And before I put it on the mixer, I like to use a dough whisk just to stir everything up a little bit to get it incorporated, and then it mixes a little bit easier once you attach the dough hook. So we'll mix this on low-medium speed for about 5 to 7 minutes. All right, the dough looks like it's done mixing, so let's take it off the mixer and take a look at it. Here's what the dough should look like after it's done mixing. It's smooth and elastic. You can see as I pull it, it's got a really good elasticity and it's still strong. It's not tearing. And when I touch it, it's not really sticky any longer. It's still a little bit tacky, but it's not sticking to my fingers. I can touch it and no dough is coming away on my fingers. So that looks great. So what we're going to do now is shape it into a ball, and then we're going to put it into a bowl and then put it into the proofer to rise. And this isn't, don't worry too much about the shape here. We're just shaping it roughly into a ball to put it into the bowl. So I like to just cup my hands around the dough and move them in a circular pattern. One hand moves down, the other hand moves up, just to create a little ball that we will then put into the bowl. All right, so this stainless steel bowl has been lightly greased so the dough doesn't stick. Use our dough scraper here to just transfer the ball into the bowl. The proofer is on and it's set to 84 degrees. Let's open it up and we'll put the dough inside. Now you don't need to worry about covering the bowl when it's inside of the proofer. Because we're using the water tray, that's going to create some humidity that will prevent a skin from forming on top of the dough. So let's put the lid on. So that's it. We're just going to leave this aside to rise. The first rise of the dough is going to take about an hour to an hour and a half. So we'll come back and check on this in about an hour and see how it's doing. It's been about an hour and 15 minutes, so let's check on our dough and see how it's doing. Okay, so this looks terrific. As you can see, it's doubled in size, it's risen quite a bit, and it feels nice and light and airy. This recipe fits in a 9x5 pan, so I have one here that I've already greased. You can use butter or just a little bit of oil or even some pan spray. You'll also want a little bit of flour to dust the counter to help prevent the dough from sticking as you're shaping it. I'm just going to very lightly dust the counter with a little bit of flour. You really don't need a lot. And I'll turn the dough out onto the counter using the bowl scraper to help remove the dough from the bowl. To shape the dough, we're going to flatten it into a rough rectangular shape, and then we will roll it up into a cylinder and place it in the pan. Pat it out to the rectangle. And if you're not sure how wide to make it, you can always use your pan as a rough guide because you really don't want it a lot wider than the pan. So that's about good right there. And if you have a little excess flour, you can just kind of brush that off with your hands as you go. And kind of pinch the seam closed, tuck in the ends a little bit. Okay, so I'll scoop the dough up, use my bowl scraper to help, and place it seam side down in our greased 9x5 pan. Now that the bread is shaped, we'll put the dough back into the proofer for the final rise. So the proofer is still set to 84 degrees, and you just want to make sure that the water tray still has water in it. And again, you don't need to worry about covering the pan at all. The water tray will prevent skin from forming on the dough. While this is rising, I'm going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. The second rise is going to take about 45 to 60 minutes, so we will check back in on this in a little bit. It's been about 50 minutes, so let's go ahead and take a look at the dough. This looks fantastic. Thanks to the folding proofer, we got a beautiful rise on this dough. It looks nice and light to the touch. It's risen up quite a bit, just doming a little bit over the lip of the pan, which is what we want, and it's ready to bake. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven that has been preheated to 350 degrees, and this loaf will take about 35 to 45 minutes to bake. The loaf is done baking and it looks and smells fantastic. It's got a beautiful golden color, and if you're not sure if it's done baking or not, you can go ahead and use a probe thermometer if you have one to check the internal temperature. You want it to register around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and if it's a few degrees above or below, that's fine, but you don't want it too far off from there. I'm going to go ahead and take the loaf out of the pan to let it finish cooling on the rack. Now that the bread has had some time to cool, let's cut it open and see how it looks. The bread looks absolutely fantastic. It has a nice tender crumb, a beautiful crust color, not dense at all on the inside, so that indicates that it proofed for just the right amount of time. Really soft, tender, it's got a great aroma, and this is just like a classic sandwich bread that anyone's going to love. This bread is fantastic, served alongside a bowl of soup, and makes a great sandwich with any type of filling that you could think of. And when it's fresh like this, my favorite way to eat it is just with some butter. You cannot go wrong with some fresh bread and some butter, which I happen to have right here. That is just perfect. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please leave them below. You'll also find the recipe linked below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Perfect.